While everyone was looking at the greatest warriors of Israel, God was watching a forgotten boy out in the fields. This is the beginning of the story of David, a young man whom even his own father didn't think worthy enough to call when the prophet Samuel came to choose a new king. Just imagine, the man of God arrives with the mission to anoint the future leader of a nation, and David isn't even mentioned among the sons. 7 brothers pass before Samuel, one by one. Strong, tall, impressive. But God whispers, "This is not the one." Then Samuel asks, "Are these all your sons?" And Jesse replies, "I still have the youngest, but he's taking care of the sheep." The youngest, the forgotten one. However, he is the one God chooses, because the Lord doesn't see as man sees. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. David was anointed right there in front of his brothers who never imagined he could be king. But something interesting happened. Even after being chosen by God, David wasn't taken to the palace. He returned to the fields. This reveals something powerful. Just because God anoints us today doesn't mean we'll wear the crown tomorrow. There's a time for preparation, a time to wait, a time to mold character. While no one was looking, God was training David in obscurity. He fought lions and bears to protect the flock, without spotlights, without applause. This molded him into a servant before making him a king. Many want the throne, but few are willing to face the bears in silence. That's where true leaders are born. But then, something begins to change. The Spirit of the Lord leaves Saul, the current king, and a tormenting spirit begins to trouble him. His advisors suggest that he find someone to play the harp and soothe his soul. And guess who they find? David. He is brought to the palace, not as a warrior, not as a future king, but as a musician. Sometimes God places us near the throne not to rule immediately, but to learn what happens within it. David observes. He learns. He serves. And when he plays, the presence of God is with him. He isn't seen as a threat, just the boy with the harp. Little do they know the future king of Israel is in the room. This phase of David's life teaches us something valuable. Never despise small beginnings. God was aligning everything. Training hands that once held a shepherd's staff to one day hold a sword, molding a servant's heart before granting royal authority. In this contrast between anonymity and destiny, we see the beauty of God's plan. What others ignore, God is preparing. What the world ignores, heaven has already anointed. David would still face giants, betrayals, long persecutions, and even inner wars. But it all started with a quiet choice in a field. Because God doesn't need a stage to reveal his purpose. He only needs a willing heart. And this was only the first part of David's story. The forgotten one chosen by God. But what happens when this simple young man who only wanted to shepherd sheep suddenly finds himself face to face with the greatest enemy warrior before an entire army? In the next episode, we'll dive into the battle that changed the history of Israel, David versus Goliath, a fight that wasn't just physical, but deeply spiritual. And what David does in that moment will reveal why God called him a man after his own heart. If you want to follow this entire journey and understand how God transforms a shepherd into a king, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. See you in the next chapter of the series, David, the Giant and the Crown. See you then.